The door creaked open like a gunshot in the dead of night, yanking me from the shallow grip of sleep. Rain hammered the roof of our cramped Seattle apartment, but it was the silhouette in the doorway, broad shoulders hunched, face half-shadowed, that froze my blood. "Isaiah," Theo whispered, his voice cracking like thunder. "I can't do this anymore. He's coming for us." I bolted upright, heart slamming against my ribs, the sheets tangling around my legs like restraints. Theo, my stepson, the kid I'd raised since he was 12, the one with my late wife's eyes and a laugh that could light up Gray's harbor fog, stood there dripping wet, clutching a soaked envelope like it was a grenade. His dark curls plastered to his forehead, and in the flicker of streetlight bleeding through the blinds, I saw the fresh bruise blooming purple under his left eye. But it was the gun in his other hand, hanging loose at his side, that hit me like a freight train from the BNSF yards down the block. "Theo, what the hell?" My voice came out hoarse, scraped raw from too many unspoken secrets. I'd hidden mine for decades, burying my truth under flannel shirts and football games. Ever since I married his mom, Lena, to keep the world at bay. She knew, of course. God, she knew, and we'd built this fragile family on quiet understandings and shared silences. After the cancer took her 3 years ago, it was just us. Me, the auto mechanic with grease under his nails and regrets in his gut, and Theo, the college freshman sketching dreams in a city that chewed up dreamers like stale gum. We'd navigated his coming out together last summer, me nodding through the tears, promising I'd have his back no matter what. But this was a nightmare scripted by the ghosts of our past. He didn't answer, just crossed the room in 3 strides and collapsed onto the edge of my bed, the gun thudding softly onto the quilt Lena had sewn from scraps of our old lives. It wasn't loaded. I could tell by the way it sat, empty chamber mocking us, but the weight of it crushed the air from the room. "Dad," he choked out, the word twisting something deep in my chest. He hadn't called me that since the funeral, when he'd screamed it into the rain-soaked cemetery grass. "It's him, Marcus. He found out about everything." Marcus. The name slithered out like smoke from a backfired engine, choking me with memories I'd long since tuned out. Lena's ex, Theo's biological father. A slick-talking real estate shark from Tacoma who'd bailed when Theo was 5, chasing deals and divorces up the I-5 corridor. We'd gotten the restraining order years ago after he showed up drunk at a little league game, slurring accusations about my lifestyle that made the other parents whisper. But ghosts don't stay buried in America. They rise with subpoenas and custody threats, especially when money's involved. Theo had just turned 19, old enough to cut ties legally, but Marcus had clout, connections in the courts, a new wife with a law degree, and now, apparently, a private investigator sniffing out dirt. I reached for him, my calloused hand hovering before settling on his shoulder, feeling the tremor ripple through him like an aftershock. "Give me that," I said, snatching the envelope from his fist. The paper was cheap stock, embossed with a Bellevue law firm's logo, but the words inside were pure venom. A demand for visitation rights, laced with threats to expose the unnatural household Theo had been raised in. They dug up my old emails to an ex-boyfriend from the 90s, fragments of a life I'd torched to play straight for Lena. And worse, they had photos of Theo at that Pride rally downtown last June, arm in arm with a boy named Javier, the one who'd ghosted him after the whispers started at community college. Betrayal burned hot in my throat, but it wasn't just Marcus. It was me, too, for letting Theo carry this alone while I hid behind oil changes and overtime at the shop. I'd watched him bloom into this fierce, artistic soul, sketching murals of Puget Sound waves crashing against hidden coves, metaphors for the parts of himself he kept submerged. Javier had been his first real shot at something tender, a shy barista with a lip ring and a poetry slam habit, the kind of romance that felt like stolen sips of coffee on rainy afternoons. They'd met at an open mic night in Capitol Hill, trading verses about loving in the margins. And for a month, Theo came home glowing, humming indie tracks from his battered guitar. Then the rumors hit, some asshole classmate who'd seen them kissing behind the lecture hall, and Javier bailed, muttering apologies about family pressure before blocking Theo's number. That betrayal had cracked him open, left him sketching jagged lines instead of curves. Now this. I crumpled the letter, my knuckles whitening. He's bluffing, I growled. But even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. Marcus had always been a bully in a Brooks Brothers suit, the type who weaponized small-town Christianity like a torque wrench. We'd built our life here in Seattle's fringes, in this sagging duplex off Aurora Avenue where the ferries horned in the distance, and the Space Needle pierced the clouds like a defiant middle finger. It was supposed to be sanctuary, Lena's dream of a fresh start after Tacoma's suffocating grip. But America doesn't let you forget. The news cycles churning with bathroom bills and border walls. The casual slurs tossed like loose change at the garage. I'd shielded Theo as best I could, teaching him to throw a punch with heart, to walk tall when the stairs lingered too long. Yet here we were, cornered in our own home. Theo's breath hitched, his eyes, those deep brown pools that mirrored Lena's, locking onto mine with a desperation that peeled back my defenses. You don't get it, Isaiah. He called the school, told them I'm unstable. Because of you. Because of us. The word us hung there, heavy with unspoken layers. Not just stepdad and son, but two men navigating the same shadowed waters. Our queerness a quiet undercurrent in late-night talks over takeout pho, sharing stories of first crushes gone sour. I'd confessed my own history once, over beers on the fire escape last 4th of July, fireworks blooming like bruises over Elliott Bay. How I'd fled Alabama at 18, chasing anonymity in the Pacific Northwest, only to bury myself deeper in denial for love's sake. Theo had listened, then hugged me, fierce, unyielding, like I was the kid needing saving. That night, as thunder rolled in from the Olympics, we didn't sleep. I brewed coffee black as the sky, and we sat at the kitchen table scarred from too many family dinners, piecing together a plan. Call the lawyer Lena's union had hooked us up with. Document every threat. And for Theo, get him to a counselor at the LGBTQ center downtown, the one with the rainbow flag fluttering like a promise. But beneath the strategy, emotion simmered. Fear laced with a fierce, protective love that scared me more than any gun. I'd failed Lena by not being honest sooner. I couldn't fail him. The days blurred into a storm of its own. Theo skipped classes, holing up in his room with sketchpads and playlists of Sufjan Stevens ballads, the kind that ache with holy longing. I'd find him staring at the wall, Javier's ghost in every doodle, a silhouette against graffiti walls, hands reaching but never touching. My own world narrowed to the hum of the shop's fluorescent lights, where I'd wrench bolts too hard, snapping one on a customer's F-150 and earning a curse from my boss. Evenings, we'd walk the waterfront, salt air whipping our faces, talking circles around the hurt. Why does it have to be this hard? Theo asked once, kicking a pebble into the sound. Loving who you love. Because America's built on pretending, I replied, clapping his back. But we're not pretending anymore. Then came the betrayal that shattered us. It was a Friday, 2 weeks after that rain-soaked night, when Javier showed up at our door. Not with apologies, but with a flash drive and a face pale as low tide. Theo didn't want me to tell you, he stammered, shoving it into my hands before bolting down the stairs. Inside, on my ancient laptop, were emails, Marcus's emails, forwarded from an anonymous account. He'd paid Javier's family pressure off, $5,000 to vanish, with bonuses if he fed intel on Theo's deviant activities. Screenshots of Javier's Venmo history, timestamps matching their last date. The kid had sold out for a shot at his parents' approval, a green card to normalcy in a world that dangled it like bait. I found Theo on the fire escape, knees to chest, rain starting up again. It's over, I said, sliding down beside him, the metal groaning under our weight. He didn't cry, just went still, like a sketch erased line by line. That's when the climax hit, raw and unrelenting. He turned to me, eyes blazing with a pain that mirrored every closeted night I'd endured. I thought he saw me, Theo whispered. Really saw me. But it's all just transactions. Like I'm not worth the risk. You are, I said, voice breaking, worth every damn fight. And in that moment, something shifted, not paternal but profound. a recognition of souls adrift in the same current. I pulled him into a hug, his head on my shoulder, and we sat there as the city pulsed below. Ferries cutting wakes, horns blaring defiance. Marcus's threats loomed. Court dates circled on the calendar like storm warnings. But in that embrace, we forged armor from vulnerability. I told him about my own Javier, a barback named Riley from my Tacoma days, who'd walked away when the whispers turned to fists. Love's not a transaction, kid. It's the risk that makes it real. We fought back, of course. The lawyer shredded Marcus's case in depositions, exposing the payoffs as extortion. Javier cracked under questioning, spilling everything in a tearful affidavit that painted him more victim than villain. Pressured by a father who equated queerness with failure. The judge, a no-nonsense woman from the U District with a rainbow pin on her robe, slapped down the visitation bid and issued a permanent no-contact. Marcus slunk back to his Bellevue McMansion, tail between his legs, but the victory tasted bittersweet. In the aftermath, Theo started painting again. Murals for the center, waves crashing into rainbows. And me? I dusted off an old Grindr profile, half joking, until I matched with a teacher named Miles. A wiry guy with a beard like driftwood and eyes that crinkled with genuine curiosity. Our first date was coffee at a Capitol Hill cafe. Awkward laughs over shared stories of small-town exiles. When I told him about Theo, he didn't flinch, just nodded, like it was the most normal thing. "Sounds like you've built something real," he said. And damn if that didn't feel like romance's quiet thunder. Months later, as summer haze settled over the sound, Theo brought Javier back. Not the betrayer, but a humbled version, seeking amends over bad pizza on our couch. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It came in fits, like learning a new gear shift. But watching them talk, tentative bridges rebuilding, I saw the humanism in it all. We're all just engines sputtering toward connection, fueled by grace we don't always deserve. That night Theo first burst in, it shocked me awake. Not just to danger, but to the life we'd carved from cracks. In America, where storms brew endless, love's the anchor. And ours? It held.